Today we will be looking at the UNISA Theory of Music Grade 6 melody writing topic. Now, today we will be focusing on writing melodies in the treble clef in a minor key. So of course I have done a previous video on writing in the treble clef but in a major key, so please do make sure that you go watch that video, as well as do understand all the foundational concepts about melody writing from grade 3, 4 and 5 before diving into this very treble clef minor key video, because I'm going to assume that you know all those basics. We're about to deep dive into the juicy topic and material today. So as you'll see on the board, I have written out a short example, a short starting question for us, and this one comes from a UNISA past paper, June 2019, grade 6, paper 1. So of course at this level you have 2 3-hour papers. Fun! The grade 6 paper 1 obviously deals with all your theoretical things, and question 1 happens to be melody writing for 14 marks. Now, as you'll see from the paper itself, they give us an upbeat bar, they give us bar 1, and then we are to write in our own bar lines, we are to fill in our treble clefs once more, our key signature once more. Of course, our time signature is important for rhythms and for everything we're about to get into, but we do not repeat a time signature no matter how many lines we will find ourselves on, because this is a practice in our sheet music, in your sheet music, in how we compose, and by now we should know this. So we also give ourselves a double bar line right at the end, if that's not clear, and also we need to establish our own key, and we need to fill in everything. So they do tell us, use the given opening and write a 12-bar melody which includes a modulation to a related key and returns to the tonic key. Provide phrasing, articulation and dynamic indications. So that's a lot to ask of us, but we are clever and we know what to do. So in the previous video that I made on a major key, you would have seen I outlined it very nicely and very systematically on the board. I went bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Which is cool, that's a good way to do it, but it might not always be the case on paper. Maybe you can't fit these things in, maybe you can. If you can, I would say please do it that way, just written out and visually so that it makes sense in the brain. However, today I'm just going to take an angle of, oh, what if I don't have enough space? So I have for myself an upbeat bar, bar 1, bar 2, bar 3. Then I'm going to have bar 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're still going to fill in what we need to in the necessary bars, but it's just going to be laid out a bit differently. So our A section is going to be spread over the first line and the second line, the B section, over the second line and third line, and then the next A section, the return of our material that they ask us in the question, will come back at the end of lines 3 and whole of line 4. So just visually this one will look a bit different, but stay with me. Now, we establish our key. Well, of course, we're dealing with minor keys today. So this is, of course, the minor key that has 3 flats, C minor. But of course, when you get your paper, you first have to think about this yourself. You have to think, okay, 3 flats. Am I in E flat major? Am I in C minor? Now, what gives it away is this very B natural, which is, of course, leading us to think, okay, we're in C minor because it's T do. Must go B, C. Interesting. And also, then we can see this very first bar that they give us. Remember, this is bar 1 because an upbeat bar is not bar 1. In bar 1, the chord notes seemingly are C, E flat, and we can assume the 5th is G. So we're thinking this is definitely then the tonic chord in C minor, and of course a bar 1 would lend itself to do that. So we have upbeat, bar 1, and of course they like giving us upbeats at this level. So what we're going to do is really outline our chord structure, and I've jotted that down for myself on my workings out, and you can do that too. And today I'm just going to go through all my workings out on the board for us. So we have an andante example in 3/4 time. We're in C minor, therefore our very last note is going to be the longest note that we can have, a tonic, which is C, of course, in 3/4 time, minus that upbeat. So that's going to be a minim C. And I'm already just going to say, hey, I want my last note to be that minim C, the C above middle C. Great. So we of course have to think about an instrument that we're writing for at this level. I'm of course going to write for a recorder, soprano recorder, because I can play it for you nicely in this range right here, right now, after we work this all out. So the cool thing about this example is that they do give us a full bar 1. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they even give us onto bar 2. They wouldn't give us a full bar 2 though at this level. But we're lucky that they give us a nice full bar 1. So we're going to think, okay, in terms of structure here, we really know that we want our third bar to go dominant 7th, and then we want to land on our C minor tonic in bar 4. Now, of course, this is bar 2, this is bar 3, this is bar 4. They're not all in the same line. Bar 4 is actually going over to the next line. We have bar 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And sometimes it's even good to say these numbers out loud in your head as you're numbering them, because everything is so systematic and you want your whole brain to work together at this point. So we have tonic, we want dominant 7th there, we want tonic. What can precede the dominant 7th? Well, of course we know we can have a tonic, we can have supertonic, subdominant. In today's video, I'm just going to choose for us. Let's do our subdominant, okay? We literally have choice because they don't give us any other notes that allude to a certain chord or certain chords. They will always give us options. But yeah, they literally give an option of you can do what you do. So what we can't do is we can't use leading note there, that's silly. We can't use submediant there, that's silly. Our 3 logical options would be tonic, supertonic, subdominant. Today I'm just going to choose our subdominant because I don't want to go tonic, tonic, dominant 7th, tonic. I'd rather go tonic, subdominant, dominant 7th, tonic. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to outline our chords, maybe add a few passing notes. We're going to end nicely on the tonic. So what I want to do is, of course, outline each of my chords. So I know now that in C minor I need to outline my chords. I know that I want to go to most likely the relative major. So I'm going to outline chords, at least the dominant 7th and tonic thereof of our relative major. And then what we're going to do, because we know that we want a modulating sequence, if you remember from our major key video. So if we go 1 up from E flat, we basically get to the key then of F minor. So that is what we're going to use, which is actually the subdominant key of our original key. So in the minor form of things, we want to think of our original minor key, our relative major of the minor, and then our subdominant key of our original minor key. Those are the 3 keys we are working with today. So of course from the major video, you'll remember that we worked with our original major key, we worked with our dominant key of the major, and then we also worked with our relative minor of the original major key. Yeah, it's of course different because we're dealing with minor, but hey, 3 keys still, that's what we're going to use today. So in C minor, my subdominant is F, A flat, C. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to use chord notes, and I'm going to copy a little bit of the rhythm that they've given. So I just use chord notes in this bar. At this point, I don't necessarily need to use passing notes. I can, but I'm just going to choose not to. So I'm using tate, taka, and right now I'm using tate, taka, and I'm just using that crotchet that they give us on the first beat there. I'm moving the crotchet to the 3rd beat there. Okay, we can do something different here, something creative, but I think this nicely ties things together, and it also doesn't make it too complicated. We move on to our dominant 7th bar. Our dominant 7th in the key of C minor is of course G, B natural, D, F. So I think that I'm actually going to start in the G. I want to get that actual 7th above the chord there, so I'm going to go to the F and then I'll go to the G again. And then I know that I want to end on a C here. So I'll put that minim C in there, and what better way to get to my C by using my leading note. So I'm actually going to use B natural there to C, and that gives us our very first phrase. We can phrase from our question all the way to the C there. That gives us our phrase, our very first 4 bars. Now we do need to fill in our upbeat to bar 5. So this is where we start our modulating. We are going to use E flat major, because that's our relative major key. Remember, we want to go dominant 7th to tonic, and then we want to pass through the subdominant key of our original key, which is of course then F minor, so dominant 7th to tonic there, and then after that we want to go back to our E flat major. So we'll go dominant 7th in E flat major to tonic. I'm lying, we stay dominant 7th. I was a bit forward there. Tonic of that key is only in bar 8, and then we restart, we bring back what we know and love. So we have C minor, dominant 7th, goes on. So already what I can do over here, upbeat to bar 9, I can go B natural. I'm copy pasting from the beginning. B natural crotchet. We're going to copy paste bar 1 into bar 9, and we're going to copy paste bar 2 into bar 10. Perfect. And then we know that the second to last bar needs to be our dominant 7th. We are of course in our original key of C minor then again, dominant 7th to tonic, and we already have our last bar, so that's great. So now we have more of a skeleton outline and a nice structure. We are going to start filling in from our dominant 7th now in E flat. So of course we only have a third beat on which to encapsulate this chord. So we don't have to go taka taka using all 4 notes of the quartet just because we want to use all 4 notes of our dominant 7th. We don't have to, eh? We can use any note of the dominant 7th. And for me now, I'm actually going to use the B flat. So I'm going to go crotchet upbeat because, hey, they give us a crotchet upbeat in the beginning. Why do we want to now do quavers as an upbeat or semi-quavers? Let's just keep it nice and simple. So this is a B flat. That bar line already cancels that B natural. So technically, we do know and understand that this is a B flat. However, if you want just to remind your, I want to say your reader, but your marker, that you know that that is a B flat and they must understand it's a B flat, you can put it there, but it's not necessary. On my jotted down version, I put it like that, just reminding people of the B flat, but nah, you don't have to. It's not a necessity. Then we move to the tonic chord of E flat major, which is of course E flat, G, B flat. So I'm going to go to my E flat. Okay, and here I'm not going to use non-chord notes. I'm just going to use chord notes. Okay, and now we know that we need to move through the key of F minor. But also, this is a modulating sequence. So B flat is going to go to C, just 1 up. We're not even really thinking about chord notes of these now in F minor. We will double check, but we don't necessarily have to think about it. I do know that my chord notes in the tonic chord of F minor would be F, A flat, C, and for instance, this E flat would go to F, this B flat will go to C, so F and C already there. This G will go to an A flat, so there we go, all 3 chord notes already, and there we go, F. We just need to notate the rhythm properly. That's great. So there we have our modulating sequence. We quickly pass through 2 keys and we're going to establish ourselves for 2 bars in the relative major once more. So this is a phrase in and of itself. I'm going to do that. And they say add articulation. I'm not really thinking of slurs or whatever, or even staccatos before this phrase now that I've put in my B section. But I am thinking over here, maybe in our modulating sequence, that we can add a little bit of spice. Bum, ba, ba, bum, bum, ba, 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 bum, bum. Okay, so there's something worth trying over there. Just notating our main sections, A, B, A as well. Okay, we're still in the B section at this point. We want to go back through our relative major keys. So dominant 7th of E flat major. We're going to use that again, and I think I'll just go B flat again. You can remind your listener, reader, audience that you are doing a B flat, but we're smart at this point, like I said. I'm just going to do that there because it is a B flat. I don't need to indicate that it is. So then we're going to move on, and I think I'll stay on that B flat. Yeah, I will do a passing note. And I think in this bar, I want all the rhythms to be dotted quavers, being to a semi-quaver, to give cohesion. There we go. And then we need to end in bar 8 on the tonic of E flat major. And because we have E flat, G, B flat, I think I'm going to go from this previous A flat of the bar to a B flat, and then an E flat. So we have bum, bum, and the next phrase we'll start with our upbeat B natural. Okay, So I'm just going to subphrase over there. Perfect. The whole of the B section can be phrased together. So from this B flat to this E flat, but I subphrased phrasing our modulating sequence part together and then this next part together. But I mean, they can also just be all phrased together as one. That's also fine. So the whole A section can be phrased as one, the B section as one, and the whole A section again as one. But I'm deciding just to subdivide section B into 2 phrases. Also, if you've done a little bit of something different in your A sections, for instance, you could also subphrase there. You could subdivide it into 2. For instance, if you did something different maybe with this beat in bar 2, you could subphrase from the beginning over here to the middle of bar 2, and then from this upbeat to bar 3 onwards there. Choices. But because I have this on beat 2 and it's really flowing, I am just phrasing the whole A section as a single phrase. Okay, but we do have options at this point. Like I said before, creativity is on our side at this point, but that also means difficulty is on our side, because it is quite difficult to be creative. I know that our structure gives us beautiful limitations and then creativity thrives, but it is tricky. So if you want to keep it nice and sweet, do A section, B section, A section. Okay, I was just a bit extra here to subdivide the B section, but now we're on to A section again, and we basically have a copy paste from the beginning, and then we just need to fill in our dominant 7th bar, because hey, everything is filled in now except for bar 11, and of course we will need to add dynamics afterwards and then we can play this through to check it out. So we of course have our tonic bar, bar 9, bar 10, we just copy pasted what we wrote ourselves from the subdominant chord in bar 2, so subdominant, and now we need the dominant 7th. So from that A flat, I think I'm going to go to the G, and I want to build up nicely going to C. So my last note, I really do want that to be a B natural, and what I'm seeing here is that I can use almost what I did there. I went G, F, G in bar 3 when I used dominant 7. I'll go G, F, G, and then to move up to that B natural, I'm going to use an A flat. However, A flat is part of the harmonic minor scale, and that's fine, but actually when you're ascending in a scale like passage towards the tonic in a minor, you actually always use the melodic form. That's what we see in life, in real music, composers doing the things. So we're going to raise 6, 7. I'm going to make that an A natural to B natural to C. I don't have to, but this makes the most melodic sense. For instance, if it was an A flat, we wouldn't be penalized, but I mean, this would sound way better, and it also shows that you know what you're doing, because in a minor piece or an extract or anything, you will always find the melodic form of the minor when you're ascending. You actually won't find the harmonic, maybe just as a test somewhere, an exercise, I don't know, your scales, but the harmonic minor actually doesn't exist in real life music. It's basically an abstraction. It's a nice sound development. It's good for your fingers when you're playing your instruments. It's good for oral training. It's good for all of that, but in actual pieces it doesn't exist. Sorry to burst your bubble over there. So the melodic minor it is, we're going to use that, and I think that's good to go. Now we need to just phrase our last A section, so all the way, oh my gosh, all this green on the board is actually representing your pencil and paper. It's a lot of things. Lastly, we're going to think about our dynamics. So we start with mezzo forte. I think what I'm going to do here is start with our B section going mezzo piano. I think what I'll do is I'll go mezzo forte at the sub phrase part. We will go forte at our next A section, and then I put a decrescendo sign here prematurely but I know that I want to then go mezzo forte here towards the end. Also the ending, I think we'll take a slower rhythmic build up to the end, so I'm going to put the ritardando there. Okay, so this is one way that you can answer such a question, and you'll see that the layout is of course different. We have A, B, A, and it, yes, would have probably been simpler just to see it visually if A was all in one line, B was all in one line, A was all in one line. So you sort of have to decide for yourself, what's better. It's a preference thing, and if it helps you to put A in one line, B in one line, A in another line, do that. I will have videos out on bass clef writing in a major key and a minor key, and there I will make sure that everything is again A, B, A, so that you can sort of see and decide what you like, because it is a you thing. Remember, even when you're jotting down your chords, if you are doing it at the back of your paper, if it's a blank white paper, or if it's on manuscript, remember that's also like a preference thing. I like to label my major keys with capital letters, and all the chords in there I do capital letters, even though I know all the chords in a major key are not major, you know. And then in a minor key I like to do everything in small letters. Now recently I've discovered that I also like then in a minor key outlining the dominant chord in capital letters, because it's a major for me. My mind, it's interesting, I've come to terms with how my mind works. You need to come to terms with how your mind works. So what works for me might not work for you, but I do like to be very systematic within the inner workings of my mind. And those other inner workings, like the chords and stuff, I mean, the examiner, the marker doesn't see that, so bye. But everything that people do see and that you are submitting for final work, let this look, you know, let us all decide this is what we're going to do. We want our minor chords to be figured as minor chords. We want our major chords to be figured as major chords. We want our minor keys to be figured as small letters. We want our major keys to be figured as capital letters. And of course, that dominant seventh, you know, you do have to have a superscript 7 next to that dominant sign. So, all of that to say, let's test this out. And I hope that this does give you a good insight into minor keys in the treble clef. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There we go. So that would give you 14 out of 14. A lot of work for 14%. But hey, this is what theory at this level is like. I hope that this does give you a good insight. And please do be on the lookout for my bass clef videos on melody writing for grade 6 level coming out very soon. So please do remember to always play from original sheet music and to make your mark on original music resources.